All right, I got high nine. Good morning. We There'll be some more trickling in. That's fine. But I kind of like punctuality. So hope everybody had a good week, and glad. Thank y'all for joining us today. Again, Carl Blackstone with the Columbia Chamber, and um, it's this week 7, week 8. It all runs together. I have to give props to Nathan Valentine, who put a picture up with his feet up and he's drinking a beer. He said, "This is a great Sunday in November," and it really was like Tuesday. And it was. I laugh because I cannot keep up. But we did have lots going on this week. It feels like this week has lasted a while. But if you go back to the beginning of the week when restaurants finally got to open up, if they had outdoor seating, which was awesome. Props to Market on Main. I literally took a snapshot I guess it was Monday or Tuesday. It didn't feel like Columbia. It felt like this huge city, New York or Boston or something, taking a picture and looking out at the high rises in downtown Columbia. Great space, and the weather's been phenomenal this week. So thanks for that, because we needed it. Let's talk about big stuff right now real quick, and then we'll hit some other things. Unemployment claims have gone down for the third time in the last 7 weeks, which is good. Unemployment on the national level, though, 14.7% came out this morning. That's pretty alarming, quite frankly. We've seen about 46,000 new unemployment claims in South Carolina just this week, which is about 10% of the overall, about 460,000 total in South Carolina. So it looks like things are settling a little bit. Obviously, the outdoor dining stuff has been on everybody's mind because of the pictures, and it is a crack in the door of opening up, right? So a little bit of freedom we feel like, but I'll tell you, we've got to keep literally got to keep an eye on things. 5 Points and other places. College kids feel invincible. I get it, but and they want to get out in public. Don't blame them at all. We all are itching for that, but we've got to show a little discretion, and some guidance from our city folks would be helpful there. I think they're working on some things. I do expect a big day today, quite frankly. I think the governor's Accelerate SC task force has been meeting. They talked specifically about salons opening, and because Chuck Whipple needs to get a haircut. But we've got a lot of people ready to go back to work. But I think Henry, he has shown he likes Friday afternoons to announce things. Our hope is this. Let's be blunt. If we want restaurants open, which we all kind of do, we got to figure out the seating capacity and all that stuff. And I know there's recommendations out there, and hand sanitizers when you walk in, and everybody wear masks. I get all that. But there's also a question of opening back up as it relates to the business side of things, and whether, if you talk, the state chamber did a good survey this week with its partners, and over a third of the people are reluctant to open because of liability concerns. And that is a significant issue. The Columbia Chamber, along with most every chamber in South Carolina, signed on a letter to our delegation this week asking Congress to work on some type of tort reform for coverage for COVID, because there is absolutely nothing. And that, I kind of keep it real here. I'm sorry, but if you think about government shut everything down, but if risk management and corporate attorneys are opening things back up, and they're reluctant to do so with the concerns of liability out there. As of Monday this week, 300 COVID lawsuits have been filed, and that will just go crazy if we don't do something about it. And so asking members of Congress to do that. And I will probably be sending all of you an email shortly, probably next week, asking our state legislature to do something, because if we can't wait on the feds, if we act locally. And I know this week, I know Louisiana was dealing with some legislation on liability, and some other states were starting to take it up. So when the General Assembly comes back next week, I'm looking at the calendar, that needs to be top of the list for nothing else. All right. So The city also talked yesterday about lifting the curfew. They decided not to do that until the governor actually lifts the restaurant order. So hopefully at their full meeting on Tuesday, we can work on some of the curfew issues. I'm all for curfew to keep kids at home and all that stuff, but if it impedes the business side of things, we need to look at maybe tweaking that a little bit to maybe just 17 and under curfew or something like that. But we're working with our city council to address that. Again, I think the biggest announcement and the biggest sigh of relief that I had this week was the University of South Carolina deciding to come back. That was significant news for a lot of small business owners in town that were weary of one summer and then not having fall. I do think there was a lot of hesitation from students whether to come back and commit to coming back this fall if they weren't going to have real classes or in-person classes. So I think it was a smart move to do that. The reality is, for your business, for my business, and especially the university and educators around the country, we're probably going to have a lifestyle the next 6 months to a year of plans and contingency plans. And so what I mean by that is if you're college or you're a high school, if we ever have a second wave of this COVID in the fall, we may have to go virtually. And so planning your schedule to have both a in-person meeting or in-person event and a virtual event at the same time is probably going to be the norm for a lot of us. And so anyway, I'm thrilled that University of South Carolina is coming back. That means on a personal side, I was pretty excited because my daughter's going to Clemson, but they'll probably come in, and I was hating not having her freshman semester stay with us. So anyway, good news for that. Literally for the many businesses in South Carolina. So I expect good news from Henry today on some type of opening. I think their decision's made, but I would fully request the governor to announce a week or so in advance when restaurants are going to open. If you talk about all the suppliers, the US Foods and the Cisco's, they don't have the supply chain ready to open back up. Restaurants need to retrain their workers and to get into a routine. With food shortages around the country, you're going to have a limited menu anyway. So I think you'll see some restaurants continue to sit on the bench for right now and just wait this thing out for a few weeks, which is probably not a bad call. Let's talk about, so there's some good things, positive things that happened, and I'm getting a lot of calls and emails from folks that are excited about or anxious about opening and excited about it. I think just seeing the traffic downtown every day has gotten heavier and heavier. So people are ready to get back to work. Let's talk about a couple areas of concern. COVID and everything else has kind of masked some of the issues still, the mundane stuff that's still going on. One, I know I've mentioned this before, but we've got to continue to look out for what our local governments are doing. You know, I mentioned this before, but Richland 1 brought up a tax increase last week. We've got to be mindful of what's going on there because, quite frankly, with the unemployment rate 14.7% nationally and the amount of unemployed folks, we can't afford to pay more right now. I mean, that we're capped. We're hoping to pay employees, not pay government a little bit more. So we've got to be mindful of that. Disappointed. I was trading text with him this morning, but Craig Plank resigned off of the Richland County Election Commission because we still can't find a director for elections, and we're less than 30 days out of an election. So Craig felt like he couldn't do any more, and so I fully respect his decision to step down. But it's a shame. He's a good guy, and I hate to see that he resigned for that. But so we need to make sure our elected folks are doing what they need to do, and we need to listen. We can't get it right sometimes when on a normal day for elections, half less when we've got COVID. So we need somebody with that knows what they're doing in there. So let's recap real quick. And then, by the way, I didn't do the housekeeping stuff. if y'all have questions or want to just make a comment, feel free to put it in the chat. For those that are calling in or have an issue you can't chat, feel free to email us at info@columbiachamber.com. That's info@columbiachamber.com, and we'll help you out. We're getting a lot of folks call and ask us for help. The standard right now is we can't get through for Department of Employment and Workforce. That's an issue. We all know, and we've got some contacts there. So if you need help, let us know. We'll be glad to try to work with Dew and y'all on that. Let's see what else is going on this week. I think that's it. Anybody else got some really big news that they need to share?
Carl, I heard something last week when the Restaurant Association was presenting before the Accelerate SC group. What they had asked for is to open the exteriors of the restaurant, like outdoor dining, like last Sunday, and then in 2 weeks, they were going to ask for the possibility of opening interior dining with appropriate spacing. And the governor came back and asked, well, why don't you just open on Mother's Day? And I was very proud of the Restaurant Association. They said, no, we won't have time to hire enough people to train our people, particularly on things like, you know, we're used to going into a restaurant and seeing salt and pepper on the table, seeing sugar packets. All of that stuff's going to go away. It's going to individual servings, and there'll be a whole lot more table, you know, a lot more disinfecting of tables between groups. So the last I heard that they were looking like from 2 weeks from the 4th to open. And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And hopefully that will be one of the announcements he makes today.
I think so. I spent a lot of time on the phone this week with Bobby Williams, who chairs the Restaurant and Lodging Association here in Columbia for the central part of the state. Their hope was that the governor would announce that and give some time for those to plan, right? Quite frankly, 1, set your menu with limited supplies. 2, allow your restaurant suppliers to fill you up with what you need, especially on the PPE that you need. And thirdly, it gives people, part of what we're going to see is there's reluctance on the consumer, and there's reluctance on the business owner, and that has to come to a balance if we're going to see the economy back open. And we're really not going to see it back open until we have schools open and daycares open and childcare. So as we limp along through the summer, we just have to be mindful of that. But the restaurants that open, everybody, I mean, there were some good points made today in local paper. I guess it was Post and Courier, but you know, you can't judge people why they need to open or what they're going through. So, but for every circumstance is different. But they do need the consistency and guidance that we did to open, and making sure that everybody's staying safe. And so, as walking up and down Main Street, this new office has been great to give us that latitude to do that. But I walked up and down all week and seeing people outside sitting and laughing, and it you know, I think it's healthy, but still we got to be careful and cautious as we go forward, because this thing is not over with, and we're still seeing over 100 new cases a day. I saw Vince on here, and Vince, thanks to Prisma. Prisma is out and about today giving free testing for those in Lower Richland. So that much needed testing. And the state's calling for more tracers, which I think is vitally important as we go forward, and especially to have that up and running for the fall. Because if we get back into a new norm, which is football and everything in early October, and a new round of COVID comes out, we're going to need to be prepared. And so making sure we have the testing and the tracing capability is going to be important. So thanks, Vince and Prisma, for doing that.
Well, since you mentioned that, there's a testing site today in Eastover. We have spent some time this week in our rural and hard to reach areas. So we're today at the Richland County Recreation Commission Center in Eastover. Tomorrow we're going to be at Lower Richland High School. from 9 to 3 doing testing. And all people have to do is show up. It's a walk up and drive up testing site. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
And there'll be other sites announced.
Good deal. Good deal. Any other? Sorry, I'm moving slow today for some reason. No comments in chat. But
Carl, I did have one other comment.
Yeah.
We've reopened our restore, and there was a question that came up about, you know, our staff is wearing masks. Can we mandate people to wear masks? We went to Able SC, and if business owners have these questions about ADA and accessibility, I encourage them to reach out to Kim Tussaud over at Able SC. She gives the best, to the point answers about working with people with disabilities. So I just put that out there as a resource.
Great, thank you for that. Yes, you can. In fact, if you look, Costco started earlier this week requiring all their guests to wear masks. Frontier Airlines announced starting June 1st, everybody's going to have to wear a mask. Lyft announced this week that all Lyft passengers or rideshare partners, whatever they call them, are going to have to wear masks as well. So I think that's going to be the standard. So if you don't have one, man, I made the mistake of going out once without one, and man, I got the stink eye, to be honest with you. So there's public shaming going on if you don't have the proper PPE, and rightfully so, by the way. But now I carry two with me, just one in my car and one on me, just so I don't go without. So good points, Mary Louise. Appreciate it.
Carl, there's also some public shaming going on if you do.
Yes,
We've experienced some of that in some areas.
Interesting. Well, the South is, and I'm not picking on us, quite frankly, but northern communities or larger urban markets are used to seeing folks wear masks or oftentimes wearing those in the winter months. We don't, right? I mean, heck, we don't even like to park a block away from anything. So we've got some training to do for ourselves, and it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust to this new lifestyle that we're in. So anyway, look what's coming up. Let's so hopefully we have some good news from the governor today of opening back up. I do think that's the case. I think with the university making their decision early, I think you're going to see other schools follow suit. I know public education is working really, really hard to make a call for the fall. I do think they're going to open, but they'll have to have a contingency plan as well. For those that missed it, we had a great conversation with Jim Clyburn this week, talking about, by the way, I just really like him. He's just a solid fella, and it's been really good to me, but very, very thoughtful in what he's been doing. So he's been pushing this rural broadband bill for about a year now. And if there's ever a time that we need rural broadband, it is now, not only for the education system here in South Carolina, but for telehealth and just equity, quite frankly. And so it was interesting to see him, and he's chairing the U.S. House Task Force, or COVID response task force. And so I fully expect rural broadband to be part of the discussion. And it's going to be on the discussion when the state legislature comes back. The feds have given each state a lot of money to spend on helping the cost associated with COVID, but I think there's going to be plenty of money that we can look to spend it wisely. Think about how we spend electric bills and our telephone bills, and this is the 1930s all over again in a new way. And so we've got to invest in our rural communities and make sure that we have the capacity to meet their needs. Is it much like Ted? I know Ted Creech is on and spent a good amount of his career at AT&T. Universal Access Fund. It's those type of things, or creative ways to pay for these things are going to be important as we go go forward. All right, a couple of comments right quick. Richland County Council has voted to use $85,000 to install 2 miles of fiber in Southeast. Okay, good. The project will, I saw that, will give about 1,000 residents broadband internet. That's huge. Think about doing that for statewide, and there is capacity to do that using the same lines that Santee Cooper electric lines go through, or the electric cooperative lines go through most of the rural areas in South Carolina. And so it's just not cheap, but you can do it. And today's technology will allow for it. So I think that's huge. Ted, the legislature got hung up on the Santee Cooper issue last time they met. Do you have a sense whether or not they will, when they come back, will they get the CR and sine die resolutions done next Tuesday? Yes. They're planning to stay for 3 days. That was the timeline that they've given it, which means they're going to introduce some new stuff. They've got a deal, I hear, through about Santee Cooper and putting that on the back burner until January. And I think everybody's at peace with that. So yes, I think they'll come back on Tuesday and they'll get their continuing resolution done. They will fund government at levels of the current year, and they'll come back in September to deal with some more things, which is not a bad way to go. So they'll be here for a couple of days starting next week. And I think they've gotten politically shamed as well over the last few weeks of how it's handled their last meeting. And so they won't make that mistake again. They'll come in and take care of business and get out. So, which is good news. Yes.
You know, as you mentioned, I did spend many years in the telecom business and on broadband, wireline, and wireless issues specifically. I've retired from that industry, but at any point in time, if you want to talk about that, I've got a lot of background on it, particularly the rural broadband issue. Providers and even governments have made a good amount of progress over the past couple of years toward pushing broadband farther out into rural areas. I also think that we collectively need to rethink how we perceive broadband. It's perhaps not always wireline. It can be strong 4G and soon 5G wireless signals, and the prices and the costs for wireless continue to go down. And so you've got the Universal Service Fund and the Connect America Fund, and you've got USDA grants and low or no interest loans to providers and others who would be wanting to do this. So there is some good momentum toward it. It's not going to be something that is solved overnight. And so, and it's going to take a lot of hands-on deck, my opinion, hands-on deck from school districts and from other providers and other governments. For example, what I don't know, the $85,000 to install 2 miles of fiber conduit, is that installing just fiber conduit? Is it extending fiber drop cables all the way to individual homes and small businesses and putting in place the technician resources to go help connect internet access into someone's home? Or are they going to see a piece of fiber or fiber conduit running past them and they still don't have fiber and they still don't have broadband? So it's a complicated circumstance.
Well, the good news is there's synergy right now to get some stuff done there. So look forward to that. Listen, my time is drawn to a close. One little thing I need to do is we always do a partner of the month at when we get together in the evenings, but we can't do that now. So I'm going to take the liberty of doing that right now, if you don't mind. But big shout out to Colonial Life. Colonial Life has been a big partner for us for many years. They were kind enough to provide us with some workstations at our new office, and they've been great. My goal today was, to be honest with you, get on an iPad and walk around the office, but we don't have all of our furniture yet. It got kind of delayed with the COVID stuff. And so I'll give a virtual tour one day soon, but we're loving being in a new place. But anyway, Tim Arnold and Marie McGee, thanks so much for everything y'all do for us. And we really appreciate Colonial. and what they do for this community, quite frankly. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it. I hope y'all have an awesome weekend. Oh, last shout out to moms out there. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, and thank y'all moms for everything that y'all do for us, and we appreciate it. So enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. Enjoy the last day of the 70s, 60s, and 70s and chilly nights for a long time. So be careful, be safe, wear your mask, don't get publicly shamed. We'll see you back next week. If I can do anything, if the chamber can do anything, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to help. See y'all soon, but thanks.